You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. Bitcoin, Ether, Solana, Doge, and more. Cryptocurrencies and digital assets are taking the financial world by storm. This exploding market provides everything a savvy trader needs: volatility, volume, and liquidity, provided you know how to find it. That's where we come in. Welcome to the Crypto Rundown. Each week, we'll break down the latest trading activity, trends, and developments throughout the world's leading crypto derivatives markets. If it's moving the crypto markets, then you'll find it on the Crypto Rundown. The Crypto Rundown is brought to you by Amber Data. If you're entering the digital asset class, you'll need access to granular on-chain and market data from multiple venues to power research, trading, risk management, and compliance. Amber Data delivers comprehensive data and insights into blockchain networks, crypto markets, and decentralized finance, empowering financial institutions to apply traditional finance methods to digital assets. Amber Data eliminates the infrastructure setup, integration challenges, and maintenance headaches to access digital asset data, reducing cost and time to market to enter the digital asset class. Learn more and download their digital asset data guide at www.amberdata.io. Now it's time to dive into the exploding world of crypto derivatives. It's time for the Crypto Rundown.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back once again. Time to kick off a brand new year. How crazy is that, listeners? Time to kick off a brand new year in the world of all things crypto. Yes, it is time once again for the Crypto Rundown. My name, of course, Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as from the network upon which all of you folks were just going crazy last year. Appreciate all of you who took the time to engage in any capacity on the network. Download, stream, subscribe, rate, review, comment on social media, any type of engagement you did. We appreciate it all at the end of the day, including all of you who joined us over there on the Pro, theoptionsinsider.com/pro, the place to go to learn more. I welcome to all of you who joined us during the holiday season. Great to see so many of you taking advantage of that great resource. We don't beat the drum for it all the time. It's kind of like the little engine that could, the best kept secret in the world of options, because you want to keep it kind of exclusive, but it is pretty cool. I'm glad to see so many of you folks are having a good time over there on the Pro. Theoptionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go. See for yourselves exactly what's cooking over there in the land of the Pro. And let's see who's joining us on the old Crypto Rundown, taking over the hot seat for the first time here in the mad year that can be 2025. None other than our old pal, Mr. Bill Ulivieri from Cenacle Capital Management. Mr. Bill, welcome back to the Crypto Rundown for the first time in 2025, sir.
So excited to be back, Mark. Thank you so much for having me, and I am looking forward to today's episode.
2025 doesn't really roll off the tongue yet. I'm still in that mode where I'm still saying 2024. Thank God we don't have to write manual checks as much anymore, because this is the time of year when I'd always be writing the old check, and it would cause all kinds of problems. So we couldn't kick off the new year with anyone else, Bill. It was appropriate to have you join us as we kick off the first Bitcoin breakdown of 2025.
It's time to explore the latest trending activity, trends, and developments across the world's leading crypto market. It's time for the Bitcoin Breakdown.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Bitcoin Breakdown, the portion of the show where we break down all the action in the world's leading digital asset, which is Bitcoin. Going to go into a little bit of a look back as well, but we'll kick things off first with where we're hanging out right now. As we're coming into the start of the show, we're threatening 102 in Bitcoin land, so back north of the 100K level that everyone's always fixated on these days. 101,973 to be precise. We were at 94,085 on the show last week. Puts us up nearly 8,000 handles, about 7888 to be precise, since our show last week. But Bill, it was a wild year. It was a crazy year in the world of crypto and indeed in the world of Bitcoin. Let's just run down the tail of the tape, and then I'll get your thoughts on what stands out to you as you look back on the mad year that was 2024. We kicked off the show pretty much a year ago, listeners. Bitcoin right around the 42,000 level, 42,280 to be precise. Spoiler alert, we closed higher than that, more than 2x that. 93,429 is where we closed the year. Obviously, we got higher in the interim, a little bit north of 108 on December 17th. So usually a quiet, a sleepy period in all markets, including crypto, but mid-December, roaring out of the gate this year. The low came shortly after our first show last year. It was about the third week in January 23rd to be precise, 38,522. So quite the wild year in Bitcoin out there. Bill, I have a lot of things that stood out to me last year, but as you look back on the wild, crazy year that was 2024, in Bitcoin, what really resonates and stands out to you, sir?
Well, I know it's hard to believe because we've been talking about it for so long, but the approval of the Bitcoin ETFs in January of 2024, we had the halving of the blockchain, the rewards on a daily basis, and per block were cut in half in 2024. I guess you could say the rise of the meme coins like unicorn fart dust, fart coin, and smoking chicken fish. All these crazy tokens on different chains kind of been exploding and in popularity, and non-fungible tokens and like meme tokens being a part of culture, like American culture. It's just crazy. But mostly, I think the biggest thing for me is this Michael Saylor event that has been going on, and it's been brewing slowly since 2020, 2021, when Saylor decided to repivot his company MicroStrategies. But oh my gosh, the greatest performing crypto this year was MicroStrategies. I mean, that thing was up huge in 2024. So a lot of great developments, and it's just crazy.
I think crazy is, to put it mildly, out there. I think you're right. Many things stand out from this past year, but squarely looking at Bitcoin right now, listeners, and just narrowing it down to Bitcoin. We'll get to all the altcoin fun in a second out there. But obviously, the approval and subsequent launch of the ETFs really is kind of what dominated the tape coming into the year and going out of the year. If I look back this time a year ago, Bill, I was running the options panel at the Stack conference, and one of the topics we had to get to, our listeners demanded it, was what's going on? Are we going to see the approval of the ETFs for Bitcoin, the spot ETFs, of course, listeners? All of us assumed once the ETFs were approved, Bill, the options would follow suit a couple of days, maybe a couple of weeks down the road. As it turned out, listeners, that was not the case. The ETFs were approved and began trading on January 11th. We did not get the options in our hot little hands for quite some time. IBIT options didn't hit the tape until November 19th. Man, what a saga it was. I went down in the middle of the year, April-May timeframe, to the OIC conference. I talked to a lot of people in the industry. You can listen to all those chats I had, listeners, on the network if you are so inclined. I know a lot of you did. And I asked them this question because we put it out to our audience again. What do you want us to talk about? And everyone's like, where the hell are the Bitcoin options? So we put that out to everybody. And in that April-May timeframe, a lot of people in the biz, if you will, people who talk to the regulators day in, day out, were not that optimistic on the prospect. Several people told me it's not even when, but if we ever see these. It did seem like the SEC just not overly inclined to want to approve these things, which sounds insane when you say it out loud because they had already approved the ETFs, but the notion of buying a put on said ETF, that was a bridge too far. That was untenable, according to them. So it didn't seem like it was going to happen. I went and followed up later that year down in Florida at the Securities Traders National Conference, talked to some of the same people and new people, see if there was any updates in that, let's say, September or so timeframe. And it seemed like the same thing. People were like, I don't know. And then sure enough, about a month and change later, we saw the approval come through and the option started trading on November 19th. So, Bill, just what a saga that was. I mean, we got approved on January 11th. Did you ever imagine it would take almost the rest of the year to be able to trade an IBIT option, sir?
I didn't. I kind of put it out of my mind when the ETFs came on board because that, for me, was just like a really big deal. And I think eventually I knew that the options would come. But, what's also interesting is just how the conversation shifted regarding, Gary Gensler and the SEC, all this news that came out on the FDIC not prohibiting, but encouraging companies not to, roll out any kind of crypto platforms. So I guess I'm not that surprised. Once I saw the Twitter just blow up in the summer, quote unquote, against Gary Gensler and what was going on. So I'm grateful that the options have come out, and it's really interesting because we have done a little bit of option work, but not much. Because honestly, there's other things I think are more exciting now. Things that are moving so fast, I can't even begin to tell you. It's so cool.
I was just going to say, have you finally dipped your toes in? It sounds like you have, sir, but you've also been lured away by other things. We'll get to some of those other things, I suppose, in a second. Let me break down here really quickly, because I know for a lot of you, this encapsulizes the year. IBIT, you've been all over it. The volume numbers reflect that. IBIT coming into today, $58, up another $4.50 from last week. Its range on the year, at least from our perspective, from launching the options. The low has been about 51.70, the high 60 3/4. Obviously, outside of that time frame, it's had more ups and downs. But from our perspective, the data really matters when the options were there. In terms of activity, well, you folks are slinging this thing. The ADV is 339,000 contracts a day, up another 3,000. Today, coming into today, we had 448,000 contracts already on the tape before we even kicked off the show. I'm sure that's even gone skyward since then. Yeah, 461,000. So you folks are lighting up the tape out there. In terms of action today, you folks slinging 22,000 of the 51 puts and 22,000 as well of the 56 puts and a 67 calls. Looks like maybe we have all February. So it looks like maybe we have a call versus put spreads, maybe a bit of a funky call. Looks like, they're selling the calls for $1.75. Oh, looks like maybe they're also selling the puts for 56 puts for $3.26 and 11,200 times and 11,200 of the 51 puts. Obviously, they did it twice, a total of 22,400. Interesting. So it looks like maybe they're doing the strangle, perhaps, against the IBIT, trying to maximize all of their premium, but maybe buying the 51 puts in case things go crazy. So in which case, then you're collecting about $5 worth of premium, paying about $1.50 to protect yourself on the 51 strike. Not the wildest thing I've seen, and you're getting a decent amount of cash, and you're out at the 67 strike to the upside if things do rally. So we've seen wilder things. Bill, we've talked before about the opportunities for harvesting premium in all things IBIT. What are your thoughts on, maybe if you don't like this structure, what about just a straight 67 call in February for $1.75 against IBIT? You like that, sir?
Well, again, I'm more of an at the money call seller and or downside, a cash secured put seller, depending on volatility. But honestly, looking at the IBIT, I guess you could call it the static rate of return. Like if the ETF were to stay unchanged between now and expiration, if you look at the 58 line, you get about almost $2, like 1 15/16 if you remember your fractions, like 1.95 in time premium, and that pays about a 3% rate of return between now and January 17 expiration. But again, I know, being a little ADD-ish, I know you don't like to go off on tangents, but again, MSTR, you can get a 7.5% rate of return, static yield, by selling some of these options. So again, we're leapfrogging in the world of standardized options. We're leapfrogging over, Bitcoin ETFs, and Bitcoin options are like so 2024. I mean, we've got to move on. And so I'm looking at MSTR and Coinbase and those kind of things as my proxy to cryptocurrency. So it's great. I'm buying cash IBIT for clients, but I'm not doing options in IBIT for clients.
That's so wild to me because you were so hesitant for a long time to really dive into a lot of these options products for your clients. And now you're just leapfrogging the spot and going straight to the wild MST. Next thing you're going to be coming out here telling me you're slinging MST user.
No, but I got to tell you something else that's going on that's just going to blow you away.
All right, go ahead.
All right, so I'm not quite sure how familiar you are with this. What's called the perpetual flywheel strategy that micro strategies is talking about. So Michael Saylor is basically selling convertible bonds. He's selling equity to raise cash, and he's using the proceeds to buy Bitcoin. That's his new value proposition. Sell premium, as in purities and convertible bonds, and buy underlying. Well, we had a couple of clients reach out to us in the fourth quarter of 2024 saying, hey, Bill, can you craft and create a strategy for us in a similar inspirational fashion? So we are selling downside and at the money puts in MSTR. We're buying these yield max ETFs, which are all covered call and option premium ETFs with insane rates of return and dividend income. And it pays a weekly dividend in some of these ETFs. And with that dividend stream that's coming in, we're buying IBIT. So we're using high premium, option decay, the whole 9 yards in this ETF wrapper, I guess you could say, in at our custodian that's in Roth IRAs and rollover IRAs. And it is insane to see 5% a week come in with these ETFs and then use those proceeds to buy IBIT. So again, the idea is to sell premium, buy underlying Bitcoin, because ultimately, we think this thing's going to 250, 350, 550 in the next couple of years.
Wow, so harvesting the premium on the wild stuff and use it to buy the plain vanilla one-to-one stuff. I don't mind that. I think that makes a lot more sense to me than the Saylor flywheel strategy, which what could go wrong with that one, right? I mean, just printing money to buy more Bitcoin. Nothing can go wrong with that strategy, right?
Nothing can go wrong.
Nothing at all
Murphy's Law can go wrong.
Could ever stop that endless value chain from printing money out there. Right now, the big dog position in IBIT outside of Bill is the Feb doubles. Feb 55 is about 49,000 of those are open right now. Looks like they've been opening them for a while. They started opening them back in late November. They put on a bunch, looks like, as well on end of the year, December 31st, on end of the year trade. Paper bought, looks like a bunch of them, about 11, 12,000 for around $4.34. So Feb 55 calls. IBIT was 53 and a quarter then. Obviously, it's looking a little better right now with IBIT at 58 coming into the show. So they're, by my math, they have broken even and more on these calls. It seemed kind of aggressive at the time, seemed like a decent outlay, but so far buying premium has been the way to go out here, listeners. A couple of other highlights from the year that was Bitcoin, and then, of course, we'll get to the altcoin universe as well. It's hard to talk Bitcoin or crypto this year, listeners, without talking about the election. It was very much an inflection point for all things crypto this year. Bitcoin, of course, leading the charge. When it became clear that Trump was going to win it, all of a sudden, all these concerns about Gensler and approvals and everything else seemed to go by the wayside. It seemed pretty certain with Gensler was heading for the exit if Trump took office. And so the election was just an inflection point for a lot of people, really kicked Bitcoin into the stratosphere. We talked about it doubling and more this year. A lot of that came post November 5th, listeners. Just looking at the vol numbers for November 5th, you will see exactly what was going on out here on election day. The one-day vol on Bitcoin that day, 132. Pretty active day out there. 2-day vol, 113. Obviously, it's going to come in as you go farther out, listeners. 3-day vol, 106. By the way, the vol story this year in Bitcoin hasn't been that wild, with the exception of wild days like this. It really has been a pretty even keel on the vol front. We haven't seen a ton of wild days north of triple digits or things like that. In fact, the last month and change, the complaint people have had about Bitcoin is that the vol hasn't really budged, which has been kind of strange in and of itself. But this one day, this inflection point day, we saw a lot of action on the vol front. 3-day vol that day, listeners, 106. Weekly vol, 7-day vol, 88. 2 weeks, 71. 3 weeks, 65. The 30-day vol, a more standardized vol measure, around 63. So that didn't get as wild as some folks might have thought. And then you go out, let's say 180 days, you're down to about a 56. So a pretty interesting day. Bill, your thoughts really quickly on the election as an inflection point for Bitcoin and indeed crypto, sir.
Oh, 100%. 100%. The whole conversation's completely changed with a Bitcoin strategic reserve, potentially the government, printing money and buying Bitcoin. We have the Doge, Department of Government Efficiency, headed by Elon Musk, and Dogecoin went from like 5 cents, 8 cents, 10 cents per token up to 32, 33. Doge is up 252% in 2024. I mean, we just saw it's like all these cryptocurrencies were like a big bubble held underwater. And once the conversation changed, once we saw Donald Trump and Elon Musk and Senator Cynthia Lummis talk about the Bitcoin reserve and all these things. Oh my gosh, it was as if years of the spring being wound and tightened, and then it just popped. And it's just, these returns are absolutely insane, Mark. I mean, the S&P is up 23% and Doge is up 252. Like, why does anybody buy SPX anymore? Like, this is a legitimate asset class that institutional managers are going to be going after, and now they have a chance to do that.
I think that quote's going to be out there for a bit, Mr. Bill. Why does anybody buy SPX anymore when you can buy Doge?
It sounds bad when you say it like that.
Well, it's up 256%. I can't blame you, but still, that's pretty funny.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Who would buy the S when you could buy Doge? I love it, says Mr. Bill out there. One of the other interesting, maybe side notes of this, BITO has dominated the world of Bitcoin options for a long time here in the States in particular. Now with the rise of IBIT, people are kind of wondering what the future holds for BITO. BITO right now, listeners, 25 even up 220, 79,000 on the tape. That's down 13,000. That's the ADV, listeners. So kind of interesting out there. In terms of vol, it's at a 61, up about 3 points from this time last week. So hanging out very similar to what we're seeing on the Deribit platform. And in terms of today's volume, only about 56,000 contracts on the tape, which raises the question, Mr. Bill. I just talked about IBIT. IBIT putting up the numbers, threatening 400K ADV. BITO kind of going the other way, down another 13,000 contracts a day. Still impressive at 79,000. But people are kind of wondering, what does the future hold for BITO, Mr. Bill, in a world where we have IBIT? What do you think?
Well, I'll tell you what I think. I think that while IBIT makes a good spot proxy for Bitcoin, I actually have a greater appreciation now for BITO in terms of the way it's structured. And that is, the futures contracts that it holds, the U.S. Treasuries that it holds, and the way that it distributes, some dividend to its shareholders. BITO was up 104% last year in 2024, and that probably what was Bitcoin in 2024? Bitcoin was up 120%. So you know what? Like I'm okay with it. Like I kind of like BITO, believe it or not, now, just because I feel like I have a slightly better understanding of how it works, and I'm okay with BITO, quote unquote, as a proxy to Bitcoin, not just as a pure option trading thing. If I'm going to trade options in Bitcoin, I definitely will go to IBIT. But for an underlying, I think I feel a little bit better with BITO total return, because it actually pays a pretty decent yield, and you're holding on to Bitcoin.
Interesting. So the distribution freaks some people out. That doesn't freak you out, that massive dividend?
No, it did before, but not anymore. Not anymore. I'm okay with it.
That should be your next book. Coming to terms, making peace with the massive dividend of BITO out there. But yes, that is hard for some folks to come to grips with. It's kind of like looking the gift horse in the mouth. Why is this thing paying me so much money? But it is interesting nonetheless. So, Mr. Bill, kind of liking himself, Bido. See, you're kind of late to the party on all these things. Interesting how you've evolved, Bill. You didn't like Bido, now you like it. You kind of skipped right over IBIT. You go straight to the wild stuff. Your trajectory in the world of Bitcoin options has been, I think, interesting, to put it mildly, Mr. Bill.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And listen, and I'm just grateful that we have these tools available to investors, market traders, because whatever you feel comfortable with is coming online. Your BITO, IBIT, these yield-mat products, MicroStrategies, Coinbase, all these options are, I mean, the premiums are just incredibly juicy. They're fun to trade. They're whipping around like what do we want? We want volatility. That's what makes this whole game fun. And even if you're wrong, you're right, because you're getting incredible static returns. And most people, honestly, don't care if they hold a Bitcoin. You know, if they get assigned on a short put, they probably don't mind holding on to the underlying in Bitcoin. They don't mind holding on to 100 shares of MicroStrategies or Coinbase. And I just think that, you know, these people that are trading Bitcoin and digital asset, you know, quote unquote securities, right? Listed securities and ETFs, they're a little bit more, have those diamond hands, I think, compared to other investors. I know that I'm on a lot of boards, you know, chat rooms, and people are talking about, you know, Pfizer or, you know, Bristol Myers, Moderna, like all these different common stocks and options. And it's all great. But as soon as they get assigned, they're bored. They want to move on. Like, should I get rid of Pfizer and buy something else? And so I think that for the people who are slightly impatient, like myself, who want a little bit of action, I think that these are absolutely fabulous products. And it will be, I think, for a few years to come.
I'll run down a few others, listeners, and we'll get to the wild world of the altcoin universe. MSTU, this is just for Greg out there. He's the only degenerate who trades this thing. Up $3 today, and $12, up a whopping $3. This thing's been just a roller coaster. Putting up 46,000 contracts a day now, up another 11,000 over the course of the last week. So maybe more than a few degenerates are starting to trade this thing out here. It's starting to get more popular. Today, 97,000 contracts as when we kicked off the show, listeners. So MSTU starting to get a little wild out here. 108,000 now. My goodness. So MSTU, maybe not just for degenerates anymore. The vol, a whopping 196, up 21 points. Yeah, it's still for degenerates, but it is a wild product. And let's go another M-named product here, listeners. Let's go out to Mara, 2030. Right now, up about $3.70 since our last show. So it started to plumb those lows around $15, pretty close to it. Now back up around the 20 handle. 340,000 contracts a day is the ADV, down about 42,000 from our last show. So coming in quite a bit, but it is that time of year after all. Today looking decent, about 280,000. So it seems like it has a chance maybe to make something happen. The vol at a whopping 99, up about 1 point. So threatening triple digits out there in Mara, as we threaten to keep on rolling right on into the altcoin universe.
It's time to move beyond Bitcoin and find out what's moving the rest of the crypto marketplace. It's time to boldly venture into the altcoin universe.
All right, listeners, let's get to it. Let's break down the altcoin universe. We'll break down the year that was and a lot of these assets in a second. First, let's check in with our old pal, the top 10, the slugfest, the battle royale. That is crypto for this week. Last week, it cost you about $21.9 billion to break into the top 10. That was our old pal Tron. This week, looking loftier, $23.1 billion to break into the top 10. Also, our old pal Tron managing to hold down the number 10 spot again, kicking off all comers coming at it out there. So Polygon, get out of here. Litecoin, get out of here. All these other names that they're trying to get at the number 10 spot, they said, see you later, kid. Tron holding on to it again this week. Number 9, Cardano, 38 point, so just almost a tick, 38.99, a tick below 39 billion for Cardano. Number 8, USD coin, 45.8 billion. Number 7, we got Bill's new favorite. Why would anybody buy SPX when you could buy Doge? 57, that's my favorite. That might be my quote of the year, Eddie. The year just started, Mr. Bill. With just one show in, you've already taken the throne. I'm going to buy you a t-shirt with that on it. We got to wear it around. Why would anybody buy SPX when you could buy Doge? Doge, number 7, Mr. Bill, at $57.5 billion worth of market cap. Number 6, BNB, $105.5 billion. Number 5, it's Solana, $106.3 billion, getting back a lot of its luster after losing quite a bit. Number 4, it's Tether, 137.3 billion. Number 3, it's XRP, 139.6 billion. Number 2, our old pal ETH, 445, and the big dog Bitcoin back over the 2T level, pretty much 2.02 trillion. It's wild to say out loud, listeners. 2.02 trillion in terms of market cap for our old pal Bitcoin. But now let's get to the number 2 out there. This has been an interesting asset, to say the least, over the course of the past year. It's our old pal ETH. 33.93 on the show last week, 36.94 when we kicked off the show today. That puts it up about 301 handles on the week. On the year, a bit of a different story. A good story, an interesting story, but a lot of people still had questions nonetheless. We kicked off the year in January with ETH 2283, ended the year about 33.33, listeners. So that's a pretty good year, all things considered, up a little over 1,000 handles on the year. So that's a pretty good run. Now, obviously, you look at other things like Bitcoin and others, maybe some people might still question, Solana certainly. But in terms of highs, we did get obviously higher than that, north of 4K ever so briefly, mid-December, about 4,100. So obviously coming back off the highs there for ETH. And the low was, again, same day as Bitcoin, right around January 23rd. So a few weeks into the year, 2167 out there for ETH. Mr. Bill, as you look back on the year that was ETH, what really stands out to you, sir?
I think what actually stands out to me is just how little the conversation was around Ethereum. I mean, it seems like I think, a couple of episodes ago, Mark, I had talked about Ethereum being like the IBM, like the horse, this thing that's just been around for a long time. And it was great while it lasted. I don't know, that's the incorrect term, but all the tokens that are trying to speed up and leapfrog over Ethereum, like you said, like Solana, other layer network tokens like SUI, SUI, it just seems as though Ethereum was great. I mean, my gosh, it was an incredible foundation that set forth in 2016, I think it was 2015 when Ethereum was invented and brought out. But I tell you, I think we're going to be seeing assets bleed out of Ethereum and move into these other layer 1 tokens and layer 2 solutions. So I'm yawning at Ethereum. It still hasn't traded above its high of like 4,700 back in 2021. I don't know. I kind of forgotten about Ethereum. I hate to say it.
Wow, Mr. Bill just washing his hands. So you're just all in on Doge and all in on these wild yield max products. You're like, the hell with ETH, the hell with IBIT and some of these other ones. You're going straight to the wild stuff. And maybe that's your theme of the year. The Wild West of crypto is back for Mr. Bill out there. I don't know. I like it. Interesting stuff out here. Listen, are you feeling something similar? Are you kind of with ETH? Because if there was a narrative that kind of dogged ETH this year, it was that. It was people kind of saying, ETH is not really keeping up. Now, if you look at the numbers, raw numbers, pretty darn good year. A lot of people would take an asset at 2283. They can get rid of it for 33 a year later. Not a bad do, as the kids say, but it also got much higher, 4,100, and then gave a lot of that back. And there also has been this persistent drumbeat of other assets coming in and maybe sniffing at its heels, most notably Solana out there, which we'll get to in a second. So kind of an interesting year out here in ETH land. Right now, vol-wise, not a lot popping off in ETH. So instead, we'll look really quickly how ETH shaped up on election day as well, because election day was not just an inflection point for Bitcoin. It was very much an inflection point for the whole crypto marketplace as a whole. Let's look at how the vol shaped up on that one day in particular. The one-day vol in ETH, spicier than what we saw in Bitcoin, which, again, if you know what ETH used to do, ETH used to be known as the spicier, more volatile asset of the two. These days, it's kind of debatable, but 134 is what we got to on the one-day vol on the election for ETH. That, of course, compares to what we saw out there in Bitcoin land. Was comparable, 132. So those two kind of getting neck and neck on the one-day vol. 2-day vol, 110. Again, all on election day. 3-day vol, 102. Then we drop off from there. Weekly vol, 86. 30-day vol down to about a 65. So again, it was a wild day, all things considered, out there on the ETH front. Let's keep rolling some of the other assets out there, because we've already talked about a lot of stuff here on the show today. The other big mover and shaker. Some might say the thunder stealer for ETH last year was our old pal Solana. Like I said, getting a lot of its mojo back over the course of the past week. Back up to some nice lofty levels. It had dipped well below the 200 level. It was 194.5 on our show last week. This week, 220.18 as we kicked off the show, up about 25 2/3 points just on the past week. Now, of course, over the past year, it's been a banger year for Solana. Kicked off the year 101.5, and we closed the year 189.25. Of course, giving back some of those highs. The intra-year high, though, got much higher. Actually, shortly after the election, a few weeks, got up late November 23rd, we hit 263 and about a quarter in Solana. So quite the run from 101.5 to 263. And then, of course, the low. This seems like a distant memory. Again, January 23rd, very much the nadir for the crypto market out here this year. Solana got to a low of $79 back then. So, yeah, that looks like a quite the bargain in hindsight, obviously. Buy it for 79, could have sold it for 263 at one point this year. I think most folks would have done that multiple times out there. It's almost as good as Bill's Doge. You know, it's interesting to see just the wild ride that Solana has been on. For a lot of people, this has kicked ETH to the curb in their wallets out there. They say, what do I need ETH for? I mean, it's obviously had a decent year, a good year. You can't complain when the asset gains around 50-odd%, but compared to Solana, it has been a bit of a laggard, quite frankly. And people were hoping ETH is going to catch up. It had that little bit of a move towards the end of the year, then it kind of gave it right back. Solana kind of kicking into high gear again. Bill, what are your thoughts on Solana emerging over the course of the past year? Is it now really going to vie for the number 2 spot, you think?
Well, I really do think it's interesting. And I guess that my thoughts of Solana are this, is that you cannot, when you've heard us say in the trading business, you have to buy when the blood is in the streets, right? And, you have to, buy the fear and sell the greed. And that's probably no more available, no more in our face than Solana. I mean, it traded $257 a token back in 2021. Then we began seeing the rate increases by Jerome Powell. We had the issue with Silicon Valley Bank and Silvergate Bank in like 2022. It went from $257 a token down to like 9.8. I mean, it dropped like a stone.
Yeah, the FTX thing really cut the legs out from under it.
Right, the FTX thing, exactly. Completely cut the legs out from it. And then it rebounded handsomely. Now it's up to, 212 or whatever it was they said, 208, 212 that you said. And it still hasn't breached its, exceeded its 2021 high. So I'm watching that. But I really do think that Solana, again, its answer in speed compared to Ethereum. I mean, Ethereum is Ethereum. It will always be that. There's still billions and billions of dollars in locked up value in smart contracts. So I don't want to dismiss that. I'm just saying that Solana really is trying to be the high speed master here, and then other tokens like that. So I know that Raul Powell from he's a global macro guy that runs the Real Vision platform. I really like his content. He is a huge Solana supporter, as well as Sui, S-U-I. And to see and watch these new platforms and new networks come out, it's very, very exciting. And listen, Solana was up 85%, versus Ethereum at like 46%. Can't argue with rate of return. But again, we can't forget in the good times just how bad it is in the bad times, right? This is like real disclaimers. This is not a joke anymore. These things can and do lose value, and we got to just be aware of that going into, we called the crypto winter at an end in like 2022, Mark, and now we've had this great year run, maybe 2.5, and then the winter's going to kick in again, and this stuff's going to get shellacked, and we got to just take it out to the woodshed for a beating, huge, and we just got to just be aware and manage our risk, because this is not going to last forever.
Where's the ray of sunshine guy that was calling the premature end of crypto winter and all that stuff? Where's that guy?
I'm a cycle guy. You gotta respect the cycles. That's all.
You do have to respect the cycles out there. A name that didn't respect the cycle really until this year, Bill, really till the last few months. This became a running joke for us on this show for the better part of the last few years. To some of our guests, like Mr. Greg, it kind of still is, but it broke out of joke status for a lot of people this year. This is good old XRP, aka Ripple, listeners. This thing was locked at 50, 51, 52 cents for years. I said myself on the show this year, what are we even doing still talking about this? There's not much going on out here. Well, again, the election, just the massive inflection point that it was, it seemed to finally unlock, dare I say it, unleash XRP from the just gravity well it's been stuck in for years out there. Now, we kicked off the year in XRP, listeners, 61.5 cents and closed the year $2.08. Been a long time since we've seen something like that in XRP. Well over a three-banger in XRP. Of course, you got as high as about 272 in mid-December as well, so could have gotten well over 4x if you were diligent in your timing there, listeners. And the low this July, it actually got down to about 39 cents, so you could have bought all the XRP you wanted. Again, still challenging for a lot of our U.S. listeners. A little bit easier now, but for a long time, that's another problem. You couldn't really, if you wanted to buy XRP or trade it, you couldn't on a lot of the major venues here in the U.S., so that very much an issue. Now with Gensler seemingly getting shown the door out there, it seems to have unlocked XRP. So, Mr. Bill, what do you think? Is XRP, is 2025 the year of Ripple, sir? What do you think? Is it unlocked?
I think it is. I have XRP ranking 6th in terms of year-to-date rate of return for my tokens, up 238% in 2024. And you're right, Mark. This is one of those things like it was not easy to buy if anybody could buy it in the United States. It was off the Coinbase exchange. And I'm not quite sure how many people were able to buy XRP, but I tell you, the X tokens, and you and I again had talked about that in one of the episodes. I don't remember which one, but XRP, XLM, XDC, IOTA, and I forget the other one that we talked about. These were all the ones that were ISO compliant for financial services. And boy, once the news broke, once Brad Garlinghouse was invited to the White House to meet with Trump, and even before then, as the writing was on the wall for Mr. Gensler and his time at the SEC, boy, this thing just exploded. And I'll be honest with you, I like XRP. I've watched demonstrations of XRP online. Banks in Amsterdam sending money to the smallest bank, near Antarctica, and it happens in seconds, like 2 seconds. You can send money from one place of the globe to the other. So the platform's amazing. They've come out with a stable coin called RL on the XRP ledger, and I really do think that this is getting to be a thing. And I think, Mark, for you and I, we have to be really careful here. And by that I mean we've been talking crypto since 2015, 2016. And we've already become accustomed to it, like we're used to it. And it's kind of like old to us. And maybe we have this baggage in our mind about what tokens can do and what they can't do. But I'm telling you, retail is lit with XRP. Twitter and YouTube videos on speculating in XRP, unbelievable activity. So either this is a real thing or it's just, again, more noise in the social media space. But it sure seems to me it's like they're building projects and getting relationships with bankers, global companies overseas. Like XRP Ledger and the token could be an incredible upside in 2025.
Yeah, it's hard to remember now, Mr. Bill, because there's so many other altcoin have come on and come along over the years to usurp it. But when we first were launching this show back right after the futures launched, so that would have been late 2017. We launched the show, I believe, in early 2018. And then with a lot of names starting to become online, a lot of people starting to get attracted to crypto in a way that they hadn't before. Bitcoin had broken 1,000. Say that out loud now. It seems like a distant memory, but it had broken through 1,000 not that long before. We had futures now, so we had tradable listed products in the U.S. It was very much like the election was an inflection point. That was very much an inflection point that year back then as well. But one of the hot things when we launched this show, everyone was talking to us saying, hey, you got to get XRP. XRP is the hot thing. In fact, you had to go to Kraken. That was the only place you can get XRP in the US. So that drove a lot of accounts at Kraken just for that. In fact, I still have a Kraken account. I don't use that much anymore just for that reason, to get XRP at the time. So it was the hot thing. Everyone had to have it. It got up to, I think, around somewhere north of $3. I forgot exactly where it topped out at. Then it just, of course, all the litigation happened, the freeze happened, and it's been stuck in this purgatory ever since. But yeah, it's fascinating to watch. I know people still have issues with it. I know Greg comes on here and says, XRP is a joke and all these things. But as Mr. Bill says, retail's all over it. So kind of interesting to watch. Where do you fall on the great XRP debate? Is 2025, listeners, the year of XRP? I mean, 2024, no slouch for XRP. Quite the banger. 61 cents up to about 39 cents on the low, up to 272. Not a bad year, all things considered. Or is this just the start of all things XRP? And let's get out of here on Bill's favorite, the thing he says you should buy, just get rid of it, ignore the SPX for. Of course, we're talking about Doge, Musk's favorite, Bill's favorite, everybody's favorite apparently right now. Good run this past week, 31.8 cents last week, 38.9 cents this week, up a little over 7 cents on the week. On the year, what a year it has been here in Doge. Kicked off the year, subbed a dime, right around 8 cents a year ago, listeners. Doge, the period threatening $1 when Musk hosted SNL, all a distant memory out there. Fast forward to where we got mid-December after the election. Again, that great inflection point. Nearly 50 cents, 47 cents. So again, not quite back to those lofty highs around $1, but halfway there. Not bad. And again, 38 cents right now. So Bill, after listening to this whole show, I think we can all summarize your strategy now as in dump all equities and large cap stocks and go long all Doge. Is that correct, sir?
No. Because if anybody from the state of Illinois Securities Department is listening, I do not need an audit or anything like that, Mark. I am not saying that. I was just speaking figuratively in terms of rates of return. Even though Doge 1, 2, 3, 4 is the top number 5 in terms of rate of return, 253%. Mark, I feel like I feel silly even saying it, but even like when my daughters in their early 2000s were saying, "Dad, you got to buy Apple stock," and I'm like, "No, Apple's stupid. I'm going to own Dell." Or when people would say, "You should buy Moderna right before the pandemic," I'm like, "No, that's stupid. I'm not paying $20 a share for that." And it went to like 500. And all these instances of our belief system are because you and I are OG, we're old gangster, and we have a certain belief on the way certain things are. And I missed Palantir at $25 a share, and then it went to 80. So I'm just saying that Doge, Elon Musk, Donald Trump, I know it sounds kind of silly when you look at the image and the meme of Doge, but I really believe that Doge will be integrated into Twitter as a payment system. And we're going to, and Elon Musk is going to be able to get done what Facebook and Diem and Libra was not able to do. And that is have a social media platform that actually incorporates a native cryptocurrency token. I think it's going to be Doge. I can ignore it. I can fight against it. I feel stupid even saying it. But I think Doge could be like an incredible platform despite all my previous baggage in my mind. So am I saying you should sell the SPX? No. Am I saying maybe you should lighten up on the Russell 2000 and buy Doge? Maybe. But just maybe 1 or 2% and don't risk anything you can't afford to lose all of.
I like that. I feel stupid for even saying it, but nonetheless. So that's what everyone says about Doge, yet somehow it persists, which is fascinating. Mr. Bill, we've been on a wild journey. We've already talked about a lot of altcoin. Any other, you always come on, loaded with a couple of intriguing altcoin in your back pocket for a rainy day. Any other interesting altcoin you want to share your perspectives on now here as we kick off the new year in 2025, sir?
Right. Absolutely. I do, actually, Mark. And my new token for this month is SUI, S-U-I. It's trading $5.24 a token. I've set up a reoccurring purchase on my Coinbase account. It is up. I don't know, what's the year-to-date rate of return? Hold on, I got to just go back and check for 2024. Just hit me update. And it was a 430% in 2024. Could it double from here? I think potentially yes. And so that's going to be my new token. in terms of just slow and steady, reoccurring buys using Coinbase. It's a layer one platform. So what happened was the guys that used to work at Facebook, now Meta, when Facebook was developing their own cryptocurrency platform called Diem, and then it was renamed Libra, when Facebook shut that whole down, and that goes back to Operation Choke Point, like 2.0 and 3.0, when they shut that down, the team from Facebook left and they started their own company. And they've been working on a solution that that Facebook used to do. And that is the social media. It's kind of like where financial services and banking meet social media. So these guys at Sui are actually some of them are the developers, and the company was started by these guys that used to work at Facebook. So I just think in terms of experience and credibility, I think it's a really interesting project. Now, I wish I would have met Sui a year ago, but I didn't. So I just started nibbling a little bit, in my personal account. We'll see how it goes. Other than that, I kind of like that. That's it for now. We'll just stick with Sui, SUI.
SUI trading $5.15. Mr. Bill out here. Let's go look at the year that's been in Sui. Yeah, it was 86 cents about a year ago, Mr. Bill. So
yeah, and it's in the top 10. I mean, it's got a $15.7 billion market cap, just below Tron and above our old friend Shiba Inu. So, that one percolated to the top of the list. I wish I would have caught it a year ago, but I didn't. And so I want to keep an eye on there for 2025.
Interesting. It had a good run early in the year. Got up from 86 cents to about 220 or so back in March. Then they cut the legs off from it and went back down to 46 cents, Mr. Bill, in August. And then since then it started rallying, got up to about 2.25 again. So made its value back in October, listeners. Then was kind of trending around $2 until it hit that great inflection point known as the election, listeners. And from there, it went from about $1.85 all the way up to where we are right now, about 5.25 out there. So a fascinating year for Sui, and also a fascinating year for you folks and your thoughts. Let's get out here a little bit of your crypto questions.
You've got questions about crypto. Who doesn't? It's time to find out the answers to your crypto questions.
All right, listeners, I want to get out of here paying off our final question of the week for last year because it is very, very relevant to the audience of this show. We asked you quite simply, which asset class do you feel has the most upside potential in 2025? Gave you 4 basic asset classes. Obviously, there's only 4 choices we can use on a Twitter poll. There's many more we could have added in there. You folks are free to write in your suggestions, and you did. But we gave you equities, fixed income, crypto, and volatility. We had write-ins for Nuclear Intelligence Fund from our resident comedian, Mr. Griffin. He says, the power of uranium combined with the promise of AI. I think that would work. Where do I file? Yeah, that would certainly get some. You just got the magic 2 letters of AI in there. That's all you need to launch a new ETF in this market. But Mr. Bill, interestingly enough, in recent years, whenever we've done this survey, I should say, equities have run away with it. This year, our audience went almost 50%, 49.3% for vol. And then number 2, Mr. Bill, kicking equities to the curb was crypto, 22.7%. Only 20% of our audience coming into this year think equities have the most upside of the year. Fixed income, only 8%. Mr. Bill, what are your thoughts on that? Crypto, a solid showing to kick off the year for 2025, sir. What do you think?
I'm really excited about that, to be honest with you. I think your audience is 100% spot on. We have, if you look at the valuation of the S&P 500, I mean, we have, price earnings ratio virtually almost at all-time high. Peak earnings to price is at levels that we haven't seen since like 1999. We have huge disparity. You talk about a dispersion trade, like we have fixed income yielding maybe 4.4, 4.5%. Interest rates have rallied. Yield has gone up, even though they've cut rates. Equities are super, overvalued, I think, at this level. So I think your audience it's got it right. I mean, I think this is an interesting place to find some value in crypto. And I use that in quotation marks. But, maybe I'd like to restate something. And that is maybe you shouldn't, why trade the SPX instead of Doge? Maybe what's better is gold. If you're a gold and silver bug, you've got egg on your face because gold has returned 2.82% for the last 155 years annually. If you assume that inflation is 3-4%, and actually maybe even if you compare inflation with the money supply, the way the printing press is just getting turned on, your cost of capital is like 12 to 15%. And I don't want to get into that because we don't have any time. But, you need something that yields better than, SPX, maybe QQQ. I don't know. But I think crypto is going to be incorporated to greater levels in portfolios by institutional investors, by people who are finally waking up and seeing that this crypto is a real thing. And we're going to be gaining more and more adoption in 2025. And I'm super excited about that.
I love it, Mr. Bill. You're going to die on that hill. Sell the S, buy Doge. That's Mr. Bill's motto for 2025, listeners. Man, what a wild year. What a wild show it was. What stood out to you from the mad year that was 2024 from a crypto perspective? Hit us up. Let us know. Do you agree with Mr. Bill's take? Sell everything, buy Doge. Or is there something else you're up to out there in the markets? What's catching your eye? What's on your radar from a crypto perspective for this year? Are you all in on IBIT and some of these other derivatives products we've been talking about here? Is something else catching your eye? Hit us up. Let us know. We love to hear from you folks at the end of the day. And before we go, Mr. Bill, sir, if folks want to hear from you or maybe chat with you about your approach to, let's say, the SPX or Doge or some of these high yield products or anything else, where should they go? What should they do, sir?
Yeah, just visit CenacleCapital.com, CENACLE capital.com, and send me an email or connect with me on LinkedIn. I publish a newsletter on all things crypto and equity-based options. So definitely get to fulfill all the things that I love so much, option trading and cash secured put trading and all those kind of things. So yeah, connect with me, say hi, and subscribe to my newsletter on LinkedIn. And let's have a conversation about getting Bitcoin versus gold or the new Bitcoin perpetual flywheel strategy in your legacy IRA that you're just left sitting behind at a previous employer. So yeah, let's do that.
The flywheel. I like that. Check out Mr. Bill, listeners. Of course, you can always follow him as well at Cenacle Capital, CENACLE. Capital, all one word, over there on the Twitter/X/soon-to-be Doge platform, if Mr. Bill is right, over there on the Twitters. And of course, check out our friends over there, amberdata.io, the place to go to kick the tires and light the fires. You have no excuses anymore. Their GUI, listeners, their graphical data is now free to all comers. So you can check out all this stuff we're talking about here and go much deeper than we have time to do here on the show, all for free. Kick the tires and light the fires. amberdata.io. Tell them you heard about us, or I should say, tell them you heard about them on the old show. They'll be very happy to hear. That's going to do it for us on the network today. Back again with our usual suite of programming throughout the week here, listeners, including the advisors option coming at you with our friends over there at ORAS. Mr. Matt, never shy about talking about crypto. In fact, he was on a panel Bill and I did way back in Chicago, probably around that 2018 timeframe. Mr. Matt was on that with us, a very early adopter of crypto in the world of derivatives. We'll be talking about some of that probably on the advisors option tomorrow. So if you're intrigued, another reason to be listening to the full network, listeners. Of course, crypto does pop up on our Futures Rundown show on Wednesdays. Also pops up on This Week in Futures Options on Thursdays. Two more reasons you should be listening to the full network, listeners. Friday, of course, it's been a mad year from a vol perspective. We're going to pay off our big 2024 vol contest. Had some crazy winners out there, so look forward to that with some special guests. And then, of course, to come back one final time for you pro folks, a little bit of options oddities. Check out all that goodness for yourselves. theoptionsinsider.com/pro to learn more. And we're back again next Monday to dive into this mad year of 2025 on the next episode of the Crypto Rundown. Stay safe out there, everybody.
The Crypto Rundown is brought to you by Amber Data. If you're entering the digital asset class, you'll need access to granular on-chain and market data from multiple venues to power research, trading, risk management, and compliance. Amber Data delivers comprehensive data and insights into blockchain networks, crypto markets, and decentralized finance, empowering financial institutions to apply traditional finance methods to digital assets. Amber Data eliminates the infrastructure setup, integration challenges, and maintenance headaches to access digital asset data, reducing cost and time to market to enter the digital asset class. Learn more and download their digital asset data guide at www.amberdata.io. You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.